And then we have one that I would really like to talk about. I would really like to talk about this Saturday night's main event match between Seth Rollins and LA Knight. Now, Seth Rollins has had so much going on around him, and the World Heavyweight title has had so much going on around it, that LA Knight, and we saw it on Monday Night Raw last week when you literally had Rollins getting involved with Gunther, getting involved with CM Punk, and with all this happening, you forgot, boom, up in the crowd right behind him is LA Knight. LA Knight, I will tell you this, LA Knight, when mixed in with mega stars, does a very good job of feeling like he belongs. There are a lot of people that when you put them in the mix of Gunther, Seth Rollins, CM Punk, all the big names, it becomes difficult to stand out because that's a very difficult thing to do. These are your big stars. LA Knight feels just as big as any of those stars to me when he starts getting in the mix. When that segment turned into Seth Rollins and LA Knight brawling through the vestibule or whatever you call it up there in the stands of the arena that they were in, I said, yeah, this is just as big a deal as the other rivalries that we were kind of hinting at and exploring. And of course, this is all building to a very logical Saturday night's main event match. And I say that it's very logical because this is my favorite thing in wrestling right now, which is actions have consequences. It's very, very simple. Actions have consequences. It's like you go back to that chart, the F around and find out chart. As you continue to F around, you will continue to find out. And you can go back and see that it's been back and forth and back and forth. Seth Rollins' group has this idea that they can do whatever it is that they want to do and that there won't be ramifications. But all they've felt is ramifications for what they've done. And I adore that. You know, the fact that we get to Money in the Bank a month ago and LA Knight is positioned to win, to the point where even fans are going, this has to be LA Knight's year. It's one of these LA Knight wins or we riot situations. And then what happens? Braun Breaker comes out, interferes. Bronson Reed comes out, interferes. Seth Rollins is able to win, but the two of them specifically attack LA Knight. And in that moment, the focus is put on Seth Rollins. The headline reads, Seth Rollins' goons help Seth Rollins win the Money in the Bank briefcase. But if you're LA Knight, the headline is not those two helped Seth Rollins. The headline is those two hurt me. Those two took my opportunity from me. I don't care who they were helping. They hurt me. So then the King of the Ring qualifying matches start to happen. And LA Knight stops, who was it? Bronson Reed or Braun Breaker? One of the two from qualifying. And then they stop him from qualifying. And then he stops the other from qualifying. And this thing just goes, it builds and builds and builds upon itself until you're left with LA Knight being like, you picked the wrong guy. That, to me, is the story of LA Knight and Seth Rollins. You picked the wrong guy. You thought you could just roll over me so that you could get to what you had next, except you can't roll over me because I'm LA Knight. And now Seth Rollins has to deal with that head-on at Saturday night's main event. At the same time, Seth Rollins is clearly more focused on what he's going to do with the briefcase, is more focused on destroying CM Punk's chances of becoming a world champion at any point, of deciding whether he's going to cash in on John Cena or he's going to cash in on Gunther. LA Knight, on the other hand, is singularly focused on Seth Rollins and is the ghost that is haunting Seth Rollins right now. And I've got to say, I've been doing soul searching about this. I've been thinking about this quite a bit. And I think that when you look at LA Knight versus Seth Rollins, if you're not looking carefully enough, you could have the instinct to say, well, the LA Knight Seth Rollins Saturday night's main event match is just kind of one of those matches that you have on Seth's way to do what's next. Right? That like, okay, Seth Rollins has this match with this fairly high-profile babyface, and it's just what Seth is going to do on his way to what he's really going to do. Except if that's what you're thinking, that's actually the entire story of this match. The entire story of this match is built on that idea. The idea that we can screw LA Knight out of the briefcase because who cares? We're just trying to win it for ourselves. We can screw LA Knight out of King of the Ring because who cares? We're just focused on this over here. When in reality, I'll tell you who cares, LA Knight. To me, I think that there is more to this match than people are potentially giving it credit for. I think that LA Knight is in has an opportunity here where a lot of times we just focus in on briefcases and trophies and title belts and crowns, and we don't realize like how important big matches and big victories and large stories are, especially large stories that might be slowly being built right in front of our eyes. In my mind, if you're looking at it quickly, the thinking would be that Seth Rollins beats LA Knight and then moves on to SummerSlam and is part of this big picture. I think that's the wrong move. The more I think about it, the more convinced that I am that LA Knight will beat Seth Rollins at Saturday night's main event. That Saturday night's main event is LA Knight's match. It is not Seth Rollins' match. And I'll tell you why, and if you disagree with me or you agree with me, 877-344-4893 is the phone number, 877-344-4893, and I am telling you that LA Knight is the one that should win the match at Saturday night's main event. And the reason for that is, it's multifold, right? Seth Rollins has a built-in excuse. Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman and his whole group are completely focused on winning the championship. They are completely focused on taking control of the WWE. What they're not focused on is a simple babyface versus heel grudge match. So that's one thing. Seth Rollins can just sit there and you can acknowledge that he overlooked LA Knight because he overlooked LA Knight. He's focused on where he's going to cash in the briefcase or winning the championship. On the second hand, I think that you can give LA Knight that victory because as long as Seth Rollins has the briefcase, it does not matter. Seth Rollins isn't affected one iota by this. As a matter of fact, all you do is set up more for Seth Rollins to do after Saturday night's main event if LA Knight gets that victory. If Seth Rollins cashes in the briefcase anytime soon, but like Seth Rollins can lose to LA Knight and be done with it, but he's not done with it. He can act done with it. He can move on to the next person. He can say that's not worth my time. He can do whatever. He can threaten to cash in the briefcase. He can actually cash in the briefcase. He can become the WWE or the World Heavyweight Champion. But what happens if Seth Rollins cashes in the briefcase? And what happens if Seth Rollins gets the title? Once Seth Rollins gets the title, you now have a scenario where not only do you have Jey Uso who wants a shot at Seth Rollins, not only do you have Sami Zayn who's on a quest to get the World Heavyweight title, who wants a shot at Seth Rollins. Not only do you have CM Punk, who has this rivalry built up with Seth Rollins, but now you've got LA Knight, who beat Seth Rollins. You've got LA Knight, who's got this victory over Seth Rollins that he's got in his vest pocket. It's slid right in there, and at any point, he can say, hey, by the way, I'm better than you, Seth Rollins. I beat you at Saturday night's main event, and I'm going to beat you for the World Heavyweight title. That, in an instant, is how you get LA Knight. And that doesn't mean you have to make LA Knight the champion, by the way. But in an instant, that's how you make LA Knight at least in the conversation for World Heavyweight champion. That's how you raise the stock of LA Knight to that sort of main event picture instead of hovering just below the main event picture. To me, I don't know that there's a tremendous benefit to Seth Rollins beating LA Knight that isn't already there. The idea that we all know Seth Rollins rules. We all know Seth Rollins is a champion. We all know how good Seth Rollins is. Regardless of what happens at Saturday night's main event, he is Teflon. LA Knight, I think the idea of people going in expecting LA Knight to lose and then LA Knight actually getting a victory over this version of Seth Rollins, I think that's the move, more so than a briefcase or a belt. That's the move that can shift the momentum on LA Knight's character and allow him to be in the conversation for an eventual championship match with somebody like Seth Rollins, or get in there and be an opponent that could beat Drew McIntyre, or if Cody turns, all of a sudden LA Knight having beat Seth Rollins is now like, hey, I'm top of my game here. I can be in that conversation with Cody Rhodes too. I just feel like LA Knight winning that match is nothing but possibilities. Seth Rollins winning that match is simply Seth Rollins winning that match. So to me, I'm all about LA Knight beating Seth Rollins at Saturday Night's Main Event. Pat in Atlanta. What's up, Pat?
Hey. How's it going, Sam? I just wanted to call in and speculate wildly for a second.
Yes, this is very good. This is very good.
I'm going to Main Event this Saturday, and nice. I think that Braun Breaker has to hit Goldberg with a spear. I think I could see Seth cashing in if Goldberg wins. I could see something like that, but I feel like it's the passing of the torch, one Atlanta boy to another. I feel like it has to happen.
Yeah, and you know, that's actually All right. So let's talk here, Pat. We know we like to
right.
Listen, you're going to wildly speculate. You're going to get my juices flowing. So,
all right, let's do it.
This goes back to what we were talking about with LA Knight beating Seth Rollins. It makes even more sense. LA Knight beats Seth Rollins on the same night that Seth Rollins cashes in and wins the World Heavyweight Championship. What happened to Seth Rollins at WrestleMania? Oh, my juices are flowing. What happened to WrestleMania 31? Seth Rollins cashes in the Money in the Bank briefcase. You know what nobody remembers? Earlier that night, Randy Orton beat Seth Rollins, but it didn't matter because Seth Rollins had the briefcase and he cashed it in the main event, and the headline of the day is Seth Rollins is the World Heavyweight Champion. However, if we wanted to, we could have gone back any time and had Randy Orton say, hey, I beat you that night. I should get a World Heavyweight Championship shot, or I should get a WWE Championship shot. If LA Knight beats Seth Rollins and Seth Rollins goes and cashes in, like what happens if Goldberg beats Gunther? And then as Goldberg is celebrating, Braun Breaker spears Goldberg out of his boots, leaves Goldberg laying. Seth's music hits. Seth cashes in. Seth is now the World Heavyweight Champion going into SummerSlam. Seth now has beef with Gunther, with Punk, with Jey Uso, with Sami Zayn, and LA Knight, because earlier in that night, LA Knight beat Seth Rollins.
It writes itself.
Oh, Pat, now we're cooking. See, we just had to put our heads together on this, and we were going to get there.
Hell yeah. I feel like the spear has to happen. It would be crazy for it not to happen.
Yeah, and I would love for it to happen, but the only context in which it makes sense that it would happen is Seth cashes in, right? That's how it has to happen.
100%.
Oh, Pat.
And it also, no one gets buried, everyone gets over. Goldberg gets his, big Atlanta moment.
Okay, but
and then he doesn't have to carry the title.
How does Gunther not get buried?
Because it's Goldberg. I feel like at that point, you're losing to a legend at that point. And then then I feel like Gunther and Seth have beef going forward that you can write a lot with.
Maybe, I don't know, maybe you think maybe one of Seth's goons, costs Gunther the match and allows Goldberg to hit a jackhammer or something. Can Goldberg even get a jackhammer at this rate on Gunther? Maybe a spear. Maybe we just do a spear. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe just a spear.
Yeah, so maybe Seth's goons cause the distraction. Gunther loses the title because of Seth's goons. This way, Gunther kind of turns babyface as well, which I think is an inevitability. Goldberg then beats Gunther. People can't believe it. Now Braun spears Goldberg. Now Seth comes in.
right there.
Whew. Pat, we did it. Thank you, Pat.
No problem, man. Thanks for having me.